In the candlelit halls of medieval Europe, nobles, clergy, and even members of the urban elite gathered around the checkered board of chess. The game, with ancient origins in India as chaturanga and later refined in Persia as shatranj, had reached Europe by the early Middle Ages, likely through contact with the Islamic world in Spain and Sicily. Yet in medieval Europe, chess was never regarded as a mere game of leisure. It was understood as a moral allegory, a reflection of political order, and a symbolic representation of the social world. Examining its pieces, its rules, and the interpretations of medieval thinkers, we see that chess not only represented medieval society, but also revealed much about its ideals and its evolving structures. Perhaps the most striking way in which chess mirrors medieval society is through its pieces, each of which corresponds to a social state or institution. At the pinnacle stands the king, the weakest piece in terms of movement, yet the most essential, since his capture ends the game. This parallels the medieval belief in the king's sacral role. He was not always the strongest figure militarily or politically, but he was indispensable as the symbol of unity and legitimacy. The game could not continue without him, just as a kingdom could not function without monarchy. The queen is an especially interesting figure. In earlier versions of the game, the piece beside the king was not originally a queen but an advisor who could move only a single square diagonally. When chess reached Europe in the early Middle Ages, this piece was reimagined as a queen, as we can see in iconic sets such as the 12th century Lewis chessmen from Scotland, which depict queens enthroned beside kings. However, this medieval queen still retained the weak diagonal movement of the earlier advisor. It was only around the 15th century, probably in Spain and Italy, that the queen's movement expanded into the powerful modern version, transforming her into the dominant piece on the board. Historians have connected this change to cultural shifts, the rise of strong queens like Isabella of Castile, the veneration of the Virgin Mary, and the growing prominence of women in courtly and chivalric ideals. Thus, the queen's evolution from vizier to symbolic queen to the most powerful figure on the board reflects both continuity and change in medieval and early modern society's perceptions of female authority. Beside the monarchs stand the bishops. These pieces, unique to the European adaptation, represent the immense influence of the medieval church. The bishop's diagonal movement has been interpreted as symbolic of spiritual authority, indirect, pervasive, and less constrained than temporal power. Their placement next to the king and queen underscores the close relationship between crown and church in medieval politics. The knights, with their unusual L-shaped move, embody the mounted warrior aristocracy. Their ability to leap over other pieces reflects the privileged status of knights, able to transcend the boundaries that constrain peasants or clergy. Just as real knights dominated warfare and upheld chivalric ideals, so too in chess they are both versatile and strategically essential. The rooks or castles represent fortifications, the backbone of medieval power. Castles dominated landscapes both physically and symbolically, serving as centers of administration and defense. On the chessboard, rooks move in straight, unyielding lines, appropriate for their representation of martial strength and stability. Finally, the pawns clearly symbolize the peasantry. Numerous, expendable, and limited in movement, pawns nevertheless form the foundation of the game, much as peasants were the foundation of feudal society through their labor. The pawn's potential for promotion when it reaches the far end of the board mirrors the rare but real opportunities for social mobility, whether through knighthood, the church, or extraordinary fortune. Medieval commentators often emphasize this detail as it offered a moral lesson. Even the lowliest could achieve greatness through perseverance and virtue. Chess also represents medieval society in its emphasis on order. Feudal society was structured and hierarchical, with every estate bound by obligations and privileges. Similarly, chess is a game of strict rules. Each piece has prescribed movements, and disorderly play quickly leads to defeat. Medieval moralists often drew this parallel, seeing in chess a reminder of the importance of social harmony. The game also reflects medieval warfare, though in a stylized form. Battles were not simple chaotic melees, but contests of strategy, requiring discipline, coordination, and long-term planning. Castles guarded the realm, cavalry moved unpredictably, and infantry advanced steadily. chess abstracts these realities into its mechanics, encouraging players to think in terms of maneuver, positioning, and sacrifice. The allegorical interpretation of chess was particularly influential in medieval Europe. The Dominican friar Jacobus de Cessolis wrote the Book of the Customs of Men and the Duties of Nobles, or the Book of Chess, in the early 14th century. This treatise became one of the most widely read works of the later Middle Ages, translated into numerous languages. He used the chessboard as a metaphor for society. Each piece represented a social role, and the game as a whole demonstrated the interdependence of all classes under the king's leadership. Pawns, for example, symbolized artisans and laborers, each with their own duties, blacksmiths, farmers, merchants, while the higher pieces showed the responsibilities of nobles, clergy, and rulers. The book was not about chess strategy at all. It was a moral guide for living within the feudal order. In representing hierarchy, order, and moral duty, chess serves as one of the most enduring symbolic windows into the medieval world. Its popularity and lasting legacy demonstrate not only the game's intellectual appeal, but also its capacity to capture the essence of an age defined by both rigidity and transformation. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my other content on theology and Christian history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.